How much misinformation have you learned about real estate?
Well, I think that the misinformation about the biggest farce about real estate.
Farce?
Farce.
I thought you said farts. I was like, why are we talking about farts?
Well, that happens in real estate.
Also,
Okay,
But-
these are big fucking words again.
Farce.
Please, can you please use farce in a sentence?
Yes, the largest farce about real estate
And
is that
can you please give me the definition of farce?
fake news
Thank you.
I love it.
is that we have a ton of education off the bat on knowing what we're doing.
Yeah, just because you have your real estate license, that means you know
You took a test.
everything.
But it's like so black and white. Like, and we live in a gray area. Like real estate is, yes, it's black and white, but there is this big area of gray of how do you act? Like, why can't we take classes on that? Like, I would have loved 8 years ago to have been like, this is how you should and shouldn't act in real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay not to know.
Well, and like I feel like for lending side, I hear a lot of people, and even your track was kind of like you started off answering phones, and you were a processor, and then you moved up into being an LO. But some people just walk into that LO
Yes.
role, and it's like that's just like us, where you study, you take a test, and
They just
ta-da!
here, go do it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, like, there's a lot to this stuff, and the truth of it is it's changing too constantly.
Yes.
So I've never understood that. I do personally feel like on my side of things for sure, you need to have your feet wet.
Like
Be
you
an
should
assistant,
an assistant
something.
or like have to do an internship or a fellowship
Right.
or something like that.
I wholeheartedly think that we
Because
should have apprenticeships.
I think the only
Yes.
one in our industry that requires you that require you to be an apprentice, do an apprenticeship is appraisers
Yeah.
and surveyors.
And appraisers are a hard field to get into because they don't get paid very much. People think that they get paid the big dollars, and they don't.
Right.
And they take the liability for their apprentices' work,
Yes.
and it's a big deal.
Which is normally why you see it like go from family member to father to
Yes.
son to child. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's a lot of hours too.
It's a lot of hours, and the education is hard. And the thing that a lot of people don't know is all appraisers are agents.
Why does this keep moving?
They are.
Yeah.
Yes. You have to
Oh,
have
I
your,
didn't know that.
yeah, you have to have your real estate license.
Yes.
Put the dummy hat on today.
Well, there's so many things that and I don't know that I knew that a surveyor had to be an apprentice until just
Yes.
now.
Yeah, they do. That's why there's not that many surveyors, and that's why when God rest his soul, Brent Taylor died.
Yeah.
He had one guy, luckily, that he had been training that could finish out
All of his work.
all of his work because he had so many already scheduled. If he wouldn't have had somebody, literally,
They would have had to go to somewhere
we
else.
would have had to go
don't-
somewhere
I
else.
never knew that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but there's not a lot that have people under them. And it wasn't until I want to say maybe his last year of life that he got someone because he was becoming so busy.
Yeah, because he was your go-to appraiser or go-to
Surveyor.
surveyor. Because I find it is easier for me to call an appraiser and be like, hey, I need you to educate me on something.
Right.
And they will talk to you.
Surveyors don't.
Surveyors do not.
You have to build the rapport with them
Also true.
first.
And a lot of them, especially if they're part of a bigger company, they won't even talk to me about that survey. They will only talk to the person that owns the property.
Yeah.
So that's hard because it's like then you're getting information through and through. And so I have someone that they're a real estate agent, but they own a surveying company too. And so I've called them and I'm like, around Lake Belton, there's 2 easement lines for Corps of Engineers that you have to be aware of. And I'm like, hey, why aren't these on surveys?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If it's commonly known that these 2 easement lines are extremely important for building, for septic, for all this stuff, why are they not just on?
What if he would have gone all the way down? What if it would have been like,
Yeah. And Christina's out of the conversation.
I'm melting.
So it's hard though, because how are we supposed to get that information if someone isn't willing to
give it?
share that
Yeah.
information with us? You know what I mean?
I wonder why they're not so willing. Because people are asshats?
I think it's all aspects of real estate because we were just talking about
That's
my
true.
client's property that's being built, and we're sitting in a limbo stage where, like, I thought an inspection was done and completed back in December, and December 31st, and here we are, it's February 12th, and there's nothing. Like, we just passed days ago. And so now their build is pushed out so far, like, legitimately
Right.
60 days. Which is insane to me, and they don't want to share that information. But why?
I feel like we would all make the industry so much better if we all shared our knowledge.
Yes.
Like, I am never offended when somebody calls and says, hey, this isn't your contract or this isn't your buyer or whatever, but does this make sense? And because the truth of it is sometimes I have to call people and make those conversations because, you know, while I know, sometimes your brain won't click.
You've called me about manufactured homes
Yes.
multiple times.
Yes. Because the first deal I ever did with you, you were the
Listing agent on a
listing
manufactured
agent
home.
on a manufactured home. And I've done manufactured homes, but not a ton. And I knew that you had done quite a few in that
Yeah.
one area at one time. And she knows a girl. And so everybody needs to know a girl that can do something, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that it needs to be more okay. Like, because there are some badass lenders in town. There's some badass realtors in town.
Well, and a lot of it really, like, there's, in our real estate world, there's nothing more powerful than your broker. Your broker is the one who takes liability for all of your contracts, the one that owns all your clients, the one that is supposed to be educating you. So if you're walking in as a new agent or an agent that's got a few years under their belt, and you're walking in and that broker doesn't have a system in place for training, for betterment, for let me help you get your business off the ground, you know, there's nothing more valuable to an agent than not a brokerage, your broker.
Right.
Like that person, because you can have a designated supervisor, you can have all that, but at the end of the day, if I have a really hard question, my personality is I want to talk to the person in charge. I want to talk to the person that owns my client that's going to be able to help me with this. And so even if my designated supervisor is the person I'm supposed to go to, I'm going to want to talk to the broker.
Yes.
I'm going
Right.
to want to talk to my broker. And a lot of times, because of the way the industry is set up, I could be an agent here, but my broker is in Houston and has no competency here, doesn't understand the market here.
Which I think is insane because we're supposed to have
Yes.
geographical
Geographical
competency.
competency.
So why can, like, that literally blows my mind. And I never thought about it until just now when you said that, because I don't think about other brokers and other brokers' locations, because my broker's here in my office and I talk to her every day because
Yes.
I'm a psychopath. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing?
And I think that, gets lost in translation because I think if we're going to run brokerages that way, where your broker owner, you're allowed to have somewhere else,
Right.
like in Houston or whatever, so
Yeah.
far away, TREC needs to require, which is our licensing board, TREC needs to require us to have a local broker in every geographical location that brokerage is closing deals,
Yes.
period.
Well, I think they think that by making them an associated or
But
acting.
not everybody does. Not everybody has an associated broker that's local.
I would say that there are probably more brokers that don't have the knowledge base than there are that do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it. I see that, like you work for a broker that they literally go into the office and
every
work.
day, and she's highly involved in all aspects, and her knowledge is beyond belief, like literally.
Well, and she seems to
Incredibly
care.
She does care, and we literally had this conversation of she had to take a step back from the association. If people don't know, the association is where we like go through to hold our license and to have access to the MLS and all these things. But we have a board and we have committees, and I serve on a committee and stuff like that. But she was like a huge aspect of it. Like, she's past president. She, has been on budget and finance, bylaws. She's like chairs and all this.
Right.
And she has officially been like, I had to take a step back because like I need to better my brokerage.
Right.
I need to better my agents. And it's super cool too with her to like look at her and be like, hey, I have an idea that I think will help better your brokerage. I'm not I'm an agent in your office, but I have no skin in the game here.
Right.
Let's build something to help your agents. And she's like, okay.
Right.
Let's do it. Because her knowledge is like, success is success.
Yes.
It's whatever. Like, let's do it. Let's build them up. Let's work through it.
Well, and I think, like, the truth of it is, and we've talked about this numerous times, when you take that real estate test and you go through your classes and you pass the test and let's say you make an A, you walk out of there knowing what? Do you know how to...
Nothing.
And that's what I have gathered.
I mean, technically, you learn the laws about real estate
In black and white.
in black and white, but they also don't necessarily apply to, they're not the laws that apply to us every day.
Yeah, because
your
there's
area or things that happen.
We don't know how to read a contract. When you come out, you never see the contract in your real estate
That's
licensing.
insane to me.
Ever.
You do now.
You do now.
You do now because Jared got his, and his book, he had an entire, they have an entire chapter now on contracts. Like, one of their entire books through
But it
Champion
should be
is
your-
contracts.
Yeah, but it's like, it needs to be like the whole course. Like, to me, we have a
Yeah.
thing called GRI. GRI should be our licensing course, not the licensing course that we have. Like, the 52 ways of, like, ways that agency works, and that's all good information, but you learn that in GRI. Or there's a whole massive section on, and we've talked about this with title, but, like, intestate versus testate, like, how people die, how things are passed along. And, like, yes, we need to know that, but, like, to literally have it a ginormous section.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, interesting.
Or, like, how many square feet make up an acre, or how, and, like, what's a township versus a city versus a county versus, like.
And then a lot of it also
just-
is not relative to us
Yes.
in Central Texas.
Yes.
Because there's tidewaters and
Yes.
all these other things that are in the contract that you literally, when you're looking at a contract and you're going over it with your client, you're like, and these 4 things don't apply to you, but they're here.
Because it covers the entire state.
It's the entire state of
Interesting.
Texas.
Well, and I didn't know that for a long time because, I get the contract when it's executed at title and then it comes to me. And like, you would not believe that the contracts that I get are not even fully completed. And the seller signed it, and the title company executed it, and the buyer signed it, and there is literally no closing date. Or there is,
I
the address is not there. Kind of important.
No, but do you know the other thing, too, about real estate that a lot of people who get their license don't know? If your legal address is not correct, you are selling the wrong property. Did you know that?
Well, it makes sense, but I guess I
Because
never thought about it.
Homes do not transfer based off the address. That is one small portion. That is your 911 address. They transfer by legal.
Yes, I
That
did
is
know that.
That is how people, when they get divorced, you must put the legal address in there, not the address. And do you know how many attorneys I have spoke to over the last couple of years that didn't know that?
And there's a lot of people that try and save money, and they do their divorce, they pull their divorce papers like offline, but it doesn't say legal address, it just says address of property.
Yes.
And then
people don't
17
realize
years down the road, you are with
there's a
Jane
cloud on
Smith.
title.
And there's a cloud, and she's had 4 husbands, which happened to me, and I have to find all of them because the first husband didn't ever deed out, and she was married 3 other times living in that home. So now I have to find all of the exes and have all of the exes come and sign.
Right.
Because people don't realize that, yes, your house has an address, but the property is based off of a legal address. So when they
Right.
get that incorrect, you just sold the wrong property.
Right. And
And
yikes.
people don't know that.
One of my friends teaches a minerals class. She's a landman, which is a whole nother topic for another day. But she, in her landman work, was researching minerals, which is big in Texas. And she had to go to title and tell them they had to do, I think she said 7 or 8 deed corrections because they had transferred the wrong legal every time.
See? And it's insane to me because all it does is take that one person to mess it up and not write it correct. So I've learned, like, and it's because it actually happened. And I guess that's the big thing about real estate is, like, you'll never know that it's wrong until you do it and it's wrong. Up. But then it comes back and it's like, oh, shit. You know,
I really messed up.
So now I literally check the deed at closing. I literally compare everything to CAD and the tax certificate when that comes in. I make sure everything's right because if I can correct it behind the scenes, I'm sure shit going to.
Well, yeah. It's like Farm and Ranch, which is not my favorite. I love selling Farm and Ranch.
Yes.
But there are so many more nuances to the lending side of it.
Yes.
And the insurance side of it. If it's a true farm and ranch, if it's not just recreational land or just like
right,
and like the legal addresses are like 17 of them because it's all these pieces, it's parcels,
and or if it's raw land that someone's land leased and it's on a verbal, and you know, like they think that they have all of the minerals, but they don't, and like they don't have a survey, so it's a TBD land, and I'm like, we shouldn't do TBD. You should pay for the survey, and they're like, well, I'm the seller. Why should I pay for that? And I'm like, because you don't know what you're selling.
Yes.
Because I have one right now that I, to the best of my ability, drew out boundary lines in land ID.
Yep.
It says it's 100 acres. They have something from a surveyor that we found in county records that is a survey correction, no drawing. It says it's 100 acres, but CAD has it as 70. I said, so if a buyer comes in.
Holy smokes.
If a buyer comes in and it surveys out to be 70 and it's on a farm and ranch contract, you can adjust the price for the acreage. So,
but do you know how many people write that wrong?
Oh yes,
they don't mark the box, and so it literally hurts the buyer.
Yep.
Well, and buyers don't know those things.
They're paying
for
100 acres and getting 70.
A lot of people don't do that right. But
no, I hate that.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to write it, ask for help. If you've never done it, ask for help.
Yes.
So when you come out of your test, how many loans do you actually know how to process and perform?
None. Like nobody, like you don't sit in my class and learn like FHA guidelines, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
You don't?
No.
What do you do in your lending classes?
We learn about TRID. We learn
Which is
about
important.
legal dates, how to calculate how much
debt to income. Because we have to do an entire finance section as well in ours. And it's the math section, and I failed my test 2 times because of the math section. Because I'm like, this is a lender's job. This is not my job. I don't know how to do this. I still don't know how to do this. So, but I've been a realtor for a long time now, so I don't have to worry about that.
well, and the good thing about it is if you stay in your lane, which I like my lane. Not always, but I definitely don't want to be in yours.
Thanks.
That lane is confusing to me. Not vice versa, but no, like you learn about whether or not, you can't tell somebody whether they're approvable or not until X amount of things are already done. Like I can't sit at a baseball game and tell somebody, no, you couldn't buy a house. I could lose my license for that. You find out about
Wait, what?
like if I'm sitting at a baseball game with you and we're sitting up in the stands,
We're
and
having
you're
a verbal conversation?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, hey, my credit score is X, I make about X, my debt is about X, and if I look at you and say, oh, that's approvable, that's not approvable, I can't.
So you can't be Bank of America.
No. Also true.
That is the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification.
A lot of it's about the right. It's the laws. Like I can't.
But I could enter all that shit online, and they could give me an instant pre-qual
because you signed the document.
Oh.
Yes. But verbal, I can't do any of that. And a big thing is I'm amazed at how many people break the law in real estate. Like I literally had somebody, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. It was a local realtor I'd never worked with. We walked out. We're in the parking lot of title, and she was like, oh my gosh, it was a fantastic experience. We should work together in the future. Do you pay If I send you somebody, will you pay me X dollars because so-and-so does? No, I won't.
Kickbacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she told me this person does that. And I'm like, wow.
A lot, but, and like.
There was a time a lot of them did that.
I don't know if they still do, but there's a company that does that, like, I mean, balls out.
Yes.
And does that.
And the thing of it is just like there's realtors that do balls out things. There's lenders and like nobody's calling them on it. But I literally looked at her and I was like,
wow, did that too.
Yes.
Yes.
Title companies buy your love by, ooh, let's go get nails done. Let's go to Dallas. Let's do this. Well, what about me? I don't want to do that shit, but can I get like a high five or something?
Yeah.
Maybe a bottle of wine?
Well, like they're real specific, like this podcast. Let's say that we got audited, and if somewhere in there they found out that I was paying for more than my third, I could lose my license.
Really?
Because it would be me buying your business. Yes.
Oh.
Or that's how they would perceive it.
Right. Yes.
Fancy.
Like, so we learn things like that. Like, if you ever see, you see a lot of realtors even post interest rates.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Can't do that. That is very, 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 very illegal. You can if it has these list of things.
The asterisk with all the things.
Right.
I saw someone post something the other day, and I think they just got it as a template, like off of Canva, and it said, buy your home today, rates as low as 2.99%. And I was like, homie, you're supposed to change the verbiage. Don't just take the verbiage. She had no clue. Not a clue. So, like, even in the marketing aspect of it, like, nobody teaches you the correct guidelines for it because there are this massive parameters for your marketing.
Well, and
On all aspects. You too?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I think hers are probably more regulated than us.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to put their, like, NMLS number and all that
On
shit. We don't have
everything.
to.
And the other thing that's different between lenders and realtors that's really interesting is we have a code of ethics and you guys don't.
Which is odd.
There's no.
So you could just go and give everybody's information out? Because technically you don't have a code of ethics to your client.
Well, I mean, we don't have anything that says that specifically.
We do.
Yeah.
We have
Confidentiality, like,
it's a big thing for us. I can't step on toes. So like if a person comes to me and says, I want to go see this house, my first question has to be, are you working with an agent? And if they say yes, I say, I'm sorry, I cannot show you that property. Unless it's my listing, then I have to show it because my fiduciary duty is to show it. But if they tell me, no, I'm contracted with Jen, I then have to contact Jen or tell them to contact Jen to go see that property.
Yeah.
and you
Interesting.
can't solicit listings. So, like, Kate's house, like, her sellers, I see them. I met them. So, say the ones we all went to was like, I want you. I call them, hey, I want to list your property. I see Kate hasn't sold it yet. I can't do that. That's soliciting. It's illegal.
And
Once you have a
things like
listing
that-
agreement signed, cannot do that. So, what happened last week shouldn't have happened. Because I had a listing agreement signed, and he should have asked that question, and he didn't.
And well, I was going to say, things like that happen all the time. I do feel like, I wonder, because I'm not in the medical field or whatever, but some of the shady shit that people in real estate do to each other, it's just, it floors the crap out of me. It really, really, really does. And I know we kind of talked about this, in our community.
Did you just say in the medical field a minute ago?
Well, like, do they? But what I was saying was, is like, I wwonder if like doctors do the same thing to each other. I didn't
try and steal clients.
There you go.
Yes.
Sorry,
I didn't
My
finish
brain
my
was.
thought.
I was like, where are we
I knew
going?
now you know you were listening.
But I think,
Sorry.
there's just like, there's this level of professionalism that I don't know that they try and steal. Maybe that does happen, but I feel like people then, like, it's word of mouth with doctors. Like, I can't tell you how many times people are like looking for a pediatrician, and like there's a gajillion like of the pediatrician that I see. Like, it's just a lot of word of mouth, and then people lose trust in that person and say they moved to somebody else, but it's because they then did their own research. And I think people don't know how to research
No.
No,
agents
I
and
agree.
lenders.
No.
There's not a good place for it.
People don't know that
Facebook is not it.
No.
Not with the biggest transaction of your life. Like, let's be real.
And that's like 785 comments deep, and so-and-so's tagged
like
12 times.
in like 12 minutes. Like, there will be so many, and it's like,
it's disgusting sometimes.
and
Slice of shit, homie.
and
It's sad.
And it's just like those people are going on word of mouth, which is great. But also, have you talked to that person, looked at the reviews, and asked for references?
And does your personality go with theirs?
I always
Yes.
tell people that.
Because at the end of the day, we all have a different personality.
Yeah.
You and I, we attract a lot of the same clients because we have a very similar personality.
Yeah.
But there's also a section of your clients that I don't attract.
Yeah.
And probably a section of mine that you don't attract.
Right.
Because our personalities are totally different.
Yeah.
You know, and in that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so then it comes down to like lenders too. Like I think like when people ask for a
It's
lender,
a dime a dozen, they think.
yeah, on social media, it's like, but they also don't know that like just because they said Christina and this one, they can't shop it. They can't see.
Yes.
They can't.
And
they
they
can't
also
go
don't
out and do that.
They also don't know that there's a difference between a mortgage broker
Also true.
and a loan, just an LO. Like,
Yes.
Right.
they don't know that there's a difference.
And
like,
the difference in those two being local and this internet man over here saying, I can get you this for
Oh,
this.
yes.
Yeah.
But in the fine print, it says you have to bring $10,000.
Yes. It's really disgusting, the things that real estate agents, that lenders do, you know, because I've heard so many stories about, well, I got to closing and there was $10,000 more, but at that point I didn't have anywhere to go, and what do I do? And I just got to sign and pay. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That, like, why are you guys sleeping at night? Because you shouldn't be.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, the
not
level
okay.
I feel like professionalism gets lost on our industry because we don't know. There's a lot of people. You can get your real estate license at 18.
Mm-hmm.
How many? Like, I look at myself as an 18-year-old, and I'm like, there is no
Right.
way I should be helping somebody buy a house.
Yeah.
No.
There's no way. I didn't even buy a house at 18. You did, but I didn't.
And that's how I'm here.
And I would not. There's just no way or no ability for me to understand at the age of 18, looking back at myself, helping somebody else to that capacity and doing it well. I haven't lifed enough. Like, I haven't had experiences.
And I feel
enough.
like at the age of 18, you can get licensed, but I also think that that's when you should move into like an assistant position, a showing agent, learn, because let's be real. Bob Joe over there, who's 57 years old, just lived a little bit of his life, is not coming to an 18-year-old to sell their home. I don't even care if you're his niece.
Yeah.
He's not trusting you with that.
No.
And that's going to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do better. Like, and I hate to say that, but that's where the professionalism comes in. Do better.
But a lot of them
want
don't
to
even
do
know
better.
how. They don't even
No.
know how.
No,
They don't
you're
know.
right.
They don't know how to write a professional email. They don't know how to.
To Kate's standards of professional email, like, I don't even think that I meet that, because she calls me and complains about people's emails, and I'm like, hi, I don't even know that I would write that to you. I think
She's
I would have
pretty
just
good.
texted you and been like, hey, there's something in your inbox, like, let me know.
She's really good at words.
It depends on who it is.
Right.
But, like, to a point also, like, I think back and I'm like, oh, Kate has made me a better agent, because now there are times I look back at, like, what I'm going to say and I'm like, whoop, let me scrap that and go out here with my little business pants on and type it all up, because you made me better, thanks. But also, your standard of emails, I think, is like Harvard law email needs
not
to be.
even close. But
Yes, it is.
It's because of where she started.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is 100% it.
And so many people think that, like, I'm a mean or awful person because, like, and I'm like, this is just a professional email. This has, like, and that's so
Yes.
hard. Is like, people get really emotional in our field, like,
Wow.
working together. Like, I'm gonna not like you because this deal's going awry, and I don't like your personality because of it. And I'm like, well, that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Well, and people assume things like, you know, I have a lot of times where, you know, realtors call me, are we clear to close? It's clear to what? And I can't say,
Yeah.
hey, no, Jen, we're not clear to close because your borrower all of a sudden had 5 collections. Like, I can't tell you those things.
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't tell you that, you know, all of a sudden he went and bought a bucket of weed and spent all his money. You know, I can't tell you those things. And so I feel
Bucket
like,
of weed.
I mean, I couldn't think of anything. I did
That's
have,
what you went to?
I did have somebody tell me one time, a girlfriend say that her fiance spent all of his money on weed, but I don't know if he did. But anyway, I know it's crazy, but I can't tell you those things. And I hear realtors, I hear lenders where they're like, oh, I don't like this person because one time, blah, 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 blah. I fully believe you need to have a relationship with your realtor.
Yes.
You need to trust them. Like, if you need to trust your realtor, you need to trust your lender. I think it's a totally thing. I can't tell you how many deals that have gone batshit crazy, but it makes a complete big difference if you have a real estate agent where you can call and say, listen, shit's hitting the fan. I'm working on fixing it. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And that person be able to say, okay.
Yeah.
I am doing a deal with a lender that I don't typically use.
Right.
Wasn't my first choice, but she's a good lender.
Right.
And it is a family member of ours. And so she's like, hey, we're having trouble getting a VOE. And I'm like, what can I do? Like, did you try this? Like, I'm not trying to step on your toes, but like, did you try this avenue? She's like, yeah, of course we did. We're all trying. I'm like, okay, I'm really sorry. I'm just trying to like think outside the box.
Right.
Like I don't work with
appreciate that.
you.
Well, and I
So here
called
we are.
you this weekend about something about just like that.
I'm
Yes.
like, I don't normally work with you, so I just want to like, what if I can do something? Let me know what I can
Yes.
do. Like,
Right.
I am happy to do dirt work. I will hustle. I will run the pavement for you because I want this to go to closing for my client.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I also don't want my cousin to be homeless
Yeah, there's that.
because like then I look like the douche canoe that couldn't get my cousin in his home, and it's not even my fault, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm like, what can I do? Can I do this? And so I'm like, how do you get a VOE when nobody answers the phone? I don't know, but I'm gonna figure that shit out.
Yeah. Well, and it's like closing got delayed. Not really. So closing was on the 26th. We moved up to the 9th. Then we had to move it back. I called Christina and I was like, hey, I'm not understanding. Like, they kept saying it's because the third party didn't get to them on time, the third party financing addendum. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, we're so close to closing. It should have been disclosed, like, to the borrower already. And I have the seller. So, like, I get even less information.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this should not push back closing an entire week. The third party, I own the fact that it didn't get to you by Friday.
Right.
I own that. And I told my client, this is my bad. I didn't upload it in a DocuSign on time. I get that. So I owned that. But I was like, there's something missing. And the lender would not respond to me at all. And I'm like, God, like, we're all in it to win it. And I know my emails get really professional. And like, when I'm asking questions, I tend to bullet point them because I'm like, it's quick, it's easy, just respond quick
You
and
can
easy.
see them.
And they took that as I was being like rude and pushy and telling them how to do their job because I kept asking, has the buyer been disclosed to?
Yeah.
Has the buyer been disclosed to? And they would not answer that question. I wound up calling the branch manager. I was like, look, I'm not trying to jump and get somebody in trouble, but I need the answer to this question.
Right.
Because if they haven't been disclosed, then TRID comes into play, and I need to, I'm trying to give a timeline.
Yeah.
And
Because people are asking you, and if you have nothing to say, it makes you look dumb.
But
Right.
the other thing too, it's like I think that's where the education piece comes in. That like that buyer's agent probably didn't think, oh, TRID, if we're not disclosed, oh, we have to wait. Like there's so many that don't even know what that process is.
And everyone wants to post blame.
Yes.
It's the seller's agent's fault because she didn't get the third party back. Come to find out, the borrower needed to put a bank statement in. The bank statement wasn't even available until that Monday. And all I needed to know was it had a 2-level underwrite. Okay, that's all I need to know. Now I understand. It's not just the underwriter
Right.
with the LO. There's a third-party underwriter looking at it, which does take longer. That's all I need to know, so I can properly set expectations for my client.
And that's where everybody
Communication
drops
is
the
key.
ball.
Yes.
Everybody drops the ball.
Communication is
Yeah.
key.
It's stupid.
You're not telling me something. You're not telling me anybody's confidence. You're not breaking your confidentiality by telling me that piece of the puzzle.
No, and it makes the transaction that much smoother. Like when
Yes.
you can
Yes.
confidently be like, hey, we kind of have some issues. Like we're trying to work through them. We're probably going to be delayed. Cool. I'd rather know sooner than later.
Yep.
Like I literally just got a text that was like, hey, if the lender can close Friday, can your seller close?
Yes.
Duh.
Yeah.
I don't even
Right.
need to ask my client. It's vacant. Duh.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to close sooner.
Of course.
So it's Monday. So you're telling me that, like, you're going to disclose by today or tomorrow, and we're going to be set to go.
We're gonna be golden.
But does that agent know? No. I know that.
Right.
I just know that because she's a newer agent on her own. Used to be an assistant who'd never gone this far because this is her first contract out on her own. And I helped her negotiate repairs for the first time. And so I'm
Right.
like, in just a minute, I'm going to be like, okay, but I just want to make sure all these things before I go to my client.
Yeah.
And that's the lack, too, is, like, the education piece. Like, she told me this was her first time, and I said, do you want to learn or do you want to ask somebody else?
Yeah.
And she said, I would love for you to teach me.
Yeah.
So this whole time we've been teaching FHA guidelines. This is this. This is
Well,
this.
and I think that people need to realize that doesn't make her weak.
No.
At all to me.
Makes her stronger
It
for
does.
wanting to
Yes.
learn.
I would rather some lender across town call me and say, hey, so-and-so told me you did this type of loan. Can you tell me how to finagle this? Or
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally fine with that.
Teach me your ways, Yoda.
I
Yeah.
mean, because, like, there are certain things I haven't done a lot of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or, like, we've been in purchase business. And so last month, maybe 2 months ago, I got to refinance. And I was like, how do we do that?
Somebody refinanced?
Well, yeah, they had to.
Okay.
But
Well, all right.
but the thing of it is if you don't do something every day, all day, or you haven't done it in a while, you should be able to call and ask. And that's why the broker matters.
Yep.
That's,
You should feel comfortable co-working with people too. Like, I all day long co-work with Kate. Like, I love it. I love every ounce of it because if I can't get a hold of my broker, I can get a hold of Kate. If I can't get a hold of Kate, I can get a hold of my broker.
right.
And you find somebody that's got the same feelings as you, and they like you said earlier, boost you up, make you feel good, but like teach you. I learn from
Yeah.
Kate every time. I learned what farce meant today. I probably used that word before, but forgot. But you learn, and so like you shouldn't be afraid to learn. I learn from you. Like literally, I learn from you all the time.
And I mean, it's okay to learn.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I'm not sure, let me find out. These
Yeah.
realtors and lenders that just bleh.
Well, and like, I mean, and Crystal in our winners group, I learned from her. Like, there was two things I'm learning like a lot about right now is, one of our clients has what's called a hobby farm. She does not raise cattle to slaughter on it. She does not like do hay to sell. She like has animals. It's like a homestead farm. She has animals on it. They're not all for like, they're not being sold or anything like
There's
that.
not
They're
income
just,
necessarily.
There's not income. So it's called a hobby farm. That insures differently, and it's very hard to insure. And so Crystal's having a hard time getting it. Farm Bureau's maxed out on how many they can do because they can only write 5 policies a month. So she's got someone in her horse world that is going to see if he can write the policy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you never know, because it's like she had to make an inventory of how many like pigs they had, how many pheasants they had, like what are the horses, what does it look like, how big are the stalls, like all this insane stuff she had.
Because it's a hobby
a
farm.
hobby farm. She texted me and she's like, "Is this normal?" And I was like, "I'll be honest, I don't know." Like,
And I feel like it's okay to say that.
I was like, I've never,
People will respect that more.
I'll be honest, I've never done something that's been considered a hobby farm because usually people buy the big land for cattle ranching
Yeah.
and, you know, something of that nature. Like, it's just so I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, I will figure it out and I will get back to you. Because now that she's opposed to getting the information, she just doesn't understand why she needs to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
She didn't think that was going to be an issue because, the previous owner didn't have a problem getting insurance. And I'm like, the previous owner bought it as a house and a ton of acreage, did not buy it with the animals.
See?
Acquired the animals afterwards.
And see, that's totally different. I think that, like, educating is cool. Like, I really think that, like, once you figure that out, like, you should tell me because I want to
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's why it's always best. Crystal always tells me, she's like, most lenders will say, hey, I need insurance for this. They're closing in 2 days. I want a quote up front as early as possible.
Especially with all the changes in insurance
Because,
right now.
if I, like, sometimes if you wait a week before closing, you don't have time
No.
to get all that. Like, because on this one, I don't think she closes till middle of next month, maybe, or something like that. And so if we didn't get on top of it, then you just be SOL.
Yeah.
Which is
But that's not taught to you either. Nobody
Yeah.
tells you those things.
Nobody does.
You
And
gotta
so-
screw that one up to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then this new one, this new cute agent, she's like, do you have any documentation on the roof? Like, the roof is 7 years old. It was put on before my client
Bought it. Right?
Well, the insurance agent is
Yes.
asking for documentation, and I'm like,
It's a new thing now.
Yes.
well, don't have any because it was done before my client purchased it,
Yeah.
Yep.
I had to just go send a roofer out to certify a roof that's 2 years old.
which is insane to me.
That's brand new.
Which is insane to me because now roofing companies are probably going to start charging to
Yep.
do roof inspections because they're having to take time to certify, and it's a liability on them to certify shit that it probably isn't even at the right,
Right.
100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's weird. Like, education is your
And you-
friend, knowledge is your friend.
And there's no way of knowing that until it happens.
Right.
I don't know how many times I'm like, ooh, hope I never have to learn that again.
Well, and how many times have you been like, that's not right, blah, 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 and then someone's like, yeah, right here, see? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's new.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's okay, though.
Yes. It's okay.
I would much rather a realtor say, holy crap, I had no idea. Than
Yes.
be like, want to, because some people are just automatically want to go into this argument. And
Yeah.
it's like, because like I'm always the kind of person where something happens and I'm like, oh crap, what did I do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look at yourself first, learn for yourself, and then put it outwards.
It always I try. I mean, sometimes I'm a redhead, so sometimes my anger gets, but try and come from that, like, help me understand this better. I say that a lot. I'm like,
You do say that.
I'm like, help me
I was about
understand
to
this
be like,
better.
she does.
She calls me and says, hey, help me understand this better. And I'm like,
No pressure, Jen.
okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like an agent called
Because
me.
she's the smart one of the two of us. Between me and her in phone calls, she's the smart one.
Well, an agent called me yesterday, and I don't know why it threw me, but it threw me when she said the price, and and I was like, she's like, do you ever call somebody because you know the answer, but like you need them to like tell you? And I'm like, yeah. And so she's talking about capital gains, and capital gains is like my least favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But she said he's owned the property for 35 years. He doesn't have a note, but like he's selling it, and he was worried about paying capital gains, but it's been his homestead for 35 years. He doesn't have to pay capital gains, right? And I said, she's like, it's only if you've lived there for less than 2 years of 5. And I was like, yes. And then she goes, okay, because it's like a $3.5 million property. And I'm like, ooh. And then I'm like, wait, does the price matter? And then so of course my brain starts
Yes.
and I'm like, wait a minute, let me think about that. Let me look that up. Let me research that and get back to you.
What's
Like,
the answer?
No, they still don't have to pay capital.
Yeah,
gains.
because they've
I
been there
was
so
thinking
long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
But
like.
but when
because
she
they've been
said the
there-
number, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Because we're taught like 250 and 500,
Yes,
and that's where
it's
you're
100% where it was. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let me double check that, because I don't know why the number threw me. It shouldn't, but it did. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't talk about capital gains enough. I don't love talking about capital
Yes.
gains, but when we talk about it, it's normally like, for me, it's my military clients. But I'm like, as long as you're reinvesting, you're fine, or you can put it in a 1031 exchange. But they will often just be reinvesting, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it comes up in almost every single one of my military clients because they're there 3 years maybe.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's less than that because they PCS early.
That's like this listing I have coming. She has lived there less than a year.
Yikes.
I was like, luckily for you, you're not making that much money.
Yeah.
Because that's going to hurt. She goes, well, I have to give it back to my parents because they paid my down payment. And I was like, you should probably keep that because you're going to be taxed. So just keep it for now and then deal with it
Right.
because, like, that's still coming for you, boo.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of those things that nobody told you those things.
No,
you just had to.
have to educate.
Yes, you do. And I always tell people, don't be afraid to, like, you're not going to offend me to call and interview me, for lack
Yeah.
of better words. Like, I think that's a good,
That's
okay.
normal.
Like, you should be doing that. Do not go on Facebook, and because somebody said 450 times to call Joe Schmuckatelli, that's not how you should call, like why?
That's a good one.
That's what I was. You never heard me. I've never heard y'all say, never said
Nope.
schmuckatelli.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I just was saying it
It's
under
very
my
Italian.
breath. It was.
Schmuck.
Yes.
Schmucky.
Well, that's that Italian. You got to throw that
Yeah.
Atelli in the end of it.
Are you Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God
Oh
bless.
yeah.
See?
Wooden
Look at her.
wooden wooden spoon kind of Italian, like
Yeah.
chase you around.
Like sauce.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like
mean, I don't talk
Jersey,
like that.
like Jersey Shore.
Yeah. My name.
That's why you always poof your hair.
I try to put my hair because my hair is so
It's
flat.
Snooki!
Oh, we woke up.
No, he was already awake, but I did just startle him. Sorry.
Anyway, the point of it is education's a good thing, and just because somebody has their real estate license does not mean they're educated. Just because somebody has their NMLS ID does not mean they're educated.
No, there's so much information out there, but a lot of it is misinformation.
Yeah.
To where that, like, you're probably getting more bad information than you are good because you're reading it off of a Facebook mom group.
Yeah.
And only none of them are realtors or lenders. And they're just like, well, in my experience.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I see that a lot.
Well, and I think that there's, I feel like we could have a whole nother part too. Like, this is misinformation towards the public, but there's misinformation among agents
Yes.
on like how to even get started, or like
Yeah.
lenders, like how do you do it? Like, great, you passed trust. How do we do it?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe we do that.
Part 2 coming soon.
I don't know what happened there. There's a lot of work. You do not walk out with your license and all of a sudden there's lines of people that want to buy a house. Doesn't work that way.
No.
And you can call every one of your friends you want to, and I hope to Jesus that at least 2 or 3 of them want to buy a house. Mm-hmm. But the truth of it is that's probably the hardest part of our job is finding the people.
I can't say I've ever called someone and been like, hey, I'm a realtor. You should use me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. You said that, and I was like, was I supposed
That's
to do
because that's
that?
what people tell you to do, is call your
I was
spirit.
like, was I
Call your
supposed to
spirit.
do that? My spirit, man, I just was.
Yeah.
Let me know if I can help you.
But word of mouth has a lot to do with it. But there is a lot of things that you can have a real estate license all day. You can have your licensing to be a lender. That doesn't mean shite.
No.
No.
It doesn't mean that you actually know how to do it at all. Like, I will ask new agents all the time how many outs are in a contract, and I can guarantee you they have no idea.
You taught me that. Very interesting. I don't want to speak on it because it's not my lane. But yeah, that's
Don't ask me.
42 for a buyer.
I knew it was
In
something
total.
like that.
yeah.
There used to be 36, then there was 38.
She's the
Now there's
genius
42.
in the. I
She
can't.
does know. I do call her often. Like, is this right?
It's because she lived above the below the Mason-Dixon line.
I think it's just because I'm
Intelligent.
You
I
also
just-
have taken a lot of classes.
yes, I take
You-
a lot of education.
You do take a lot of education.
I do take a lot of
Yes.
education, and I'm not afraid to take education outside of the licensing either.
Yes. Educate
Yeah.
yourself. Ask questions.
Don't
Facebook
be
doesn't know it all.
Don't be misinformed.
Stay tuned for part 2 on how to do it once you get your
Yes.
You want to be. We're not saying don't be an agent. We're not saying don't be a lender, but let us help you
This
figure
is
out
how we
how to
do
do it.
it. That's all I got. Have a great day.
Good.
Bye.
Bye.